to Struggles of the Spirit. I'm the guy who came up with that name originally, and I thought it would fit the human struggle that we all have one way or another in life. It's not a struggle that just one person has or one sex has, but it's a human struggle, and it varies and is different for everyone. There's no commonality. It's where it's unique, and so I hope you like the program. It's not a phone-in. We didn't broadcast it originally as a phone-in, so we can't ask you to call us back. But you're welcome to write us or phone the studio and pass on whatever you would like. We'd be very happy to have your thoughts about what we're doing and how you like the program that we had before and whether you want us to continue it. So keep us posted. I'm Reverend Leland Udell, a Episcopal priest and CPE supervisor, and we have a guest here who's been from the beginning, Richard Doze. He's a clinical psychologist, and he's also a Buddhist, and he's also interested in people and human beings. There's a lot of experience, and so you're a part of the program, I think, a permanent part of the program. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Hmm?
Good to be here, Lee. I know you're coming back from some struggles of your own. Maybe you could enlighten the audience a bit with why you've been out for a while.
I'd like to do that. I saw a lot of doctors. I was in the hospital several times, hospitalized, in bed, and all the rest. But no one came up with a real clear, definitive diagnosis. The doctors all knew that I wasn't right, but I didn't need a doctor to tell me that. Mm. And it was a fact. It just was a wearisome struggle. That's why Struggles of the Spirit fits.
Yeah.
There's no one illness, not one syndrome, but a struggle. And we're still struggling. We have not resolved the problems. I think from my point of view, what it seems to have been a mild form of stroke, maybe not mild, but a form of stroke where my body didn't work very well. And there was nothing that anybody could do except to maintain me and help me to survive it and come out alive at the end. There was no cure to give me, no pill, no treatment, but basically to help me to try to make it, to try to get through the difficulties. And I think we have, with a lot of people's help, like Richard Doze, his help, and many other people's. We need a group support. I think that's the one thing that we all understand in illness, any kind of illness, not just Lee Udell's type of illness, but any illness. We need the support of others. We can't really hack it ourselves. We need the other person to be there with us, sharing it with us and helping us, and advising us and encouraging us. It makes a difference. You don't want to feel that it's you alone have been doing this, but that it's the human condition. And that is what it is, the human condition. I was just thinking, if you want to write us, I guess it would be Struggles of the Spirit would be the address. It would be, what was the name of the studio?
VCAM, Channel 15.
VCAM, Channel 15, here in Burlington, Vermont. So write us, and we'll get back to you. We'll respond, and I'll be happy to respond to you. And I think Richard would as well, to our own words, to your words. Now I want to, because I've been through all this, it's been hell. It's not been an easy road. And I don't know where the thought ever came that illness was a simple thing. I had no fever, I had no pains, no uncertain future. I mean, I've had some uncertain futures, but it hasn't been, will he live or die? It hasn't been like that. However, you feel sometimes pretty desperate, almost as though life and death issues were there. And so I'd like to share with you some of my thoughts about what happened to me, and for you to take them and use them for your own thoughts and your own reactions to help you in your struggles as you go along in life. I'm wearing a clerical collar, as you can know, you can see. And religion doesn't exempt me from problems. It's part of life, and it's something that's there. Religion helps you cope with illness, but it doesn't take away the problem. And there's some people, they almost think as though God sat up there on his throne in heaven and figured out, now who's going to be ill this day? Who will I make sick? Who will I have died? God would be a pretty horrible God if he did that kind of thing. I don't believe in that kind of nonsense. He permits things to happen, but he doesn't require, orchestrate things to happen. So we have to cope with whatever happens. I wanted to pass on that your nurses and doctors all are human beings trying their best to make you well, but it's not very easy. And they sometimes make things worse.
Huh.
I need to say that.
Yeah.
They make things worse because they don't know what to do, they don't know what to say, and they're trying to encourage you.
And you're hoping that they're going to be able to.
Oh yes, you hope you'll have your problem removed by them.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll find some medicines or treatments that will make a big difference for you.
Yes. So you come in with the hope and the wish, the expectation that the physicians and nurses and other healthcare people are going to be able to perceive your difficulty and understand it and give you a remedy.
Right.
But sometimes, as you're saying, it appears to be mysterious.
Yep.
Can't pinpoint it.
Your body just isn't working well.
Yeah. And as I recall visiting you a few times, that it becomes increasingly frustrating when day after day, week after week, you continue to be in distress and there's no remedy being offered.
That's true. That's true.
So that in itself would seem to be quite a struggle. How do you manage?
You can get depressed about that because you don't like it, you want it to go away, but it just can't, quote unquote, go away by itself.
Right.
having a sense of humor helps. If you take yourself too seriously, you can't laugh anymore, and you need to laugh.
For sure.
See the things that are laughable.
At what point did you discover that you could laugh again about your situation? It didn't happen. Didn't happen right away, did it?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm trying to think right now here. Seriously, think about when I could laugh. I guess I could laugh when I felt that I was understanding myself and what was going wrong.
Understanding yourself. Mm.
Yeah. That I wasn't feeling victimized. And when I felt that I had some hope.
Mm.
We all need hope that you can get better.
I saw you a couple of times when you were fairly angry.
Yeah, well, that's appropriate. And there's nothing wrong with being angry. Were you surprised that I was angry?
No, I wasn't surprised, but I was impressed with the degree and the immediacy of your indignation.
I don't remember that. That's interesting.
And it's almost in some ways as though illness, particularly I suppose illness that is not defined and easily managed, is experienced as an insult.
Yeah, it is an insult. It feels like that.
You're accustomed to having a certain degree of functioning and capability, and all of a sudden it's gone. And nobody can say why. You're just deprived.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah.
One would like to cry. And crying sometimes is an important function, an important way to cope, because you let out all of your feelings, not just your positive feelings, but your negative feelings.
Did you manage to cry at all?
Oh, yeah.
You did, huh?
Yeah, crying is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength, that you don't like what's happened and you want it changed, you want it different. And sometimes it's your own fault or somebody else's fault that you're sick, and you need to be able to express that. I mean, if you're sitting on a tack, you should be able to say, "Damn tack, it's just awful. It hurts like hell." You need to be able to say it. Then maybe you can get over the problem. But you just shouldn't endure it.
Mm.
Just simply enduring isn't good. I noticed that when the staff tried to tell me how I should feel, that's when I got into difficulty.
Uh-huh.
Because how would they know how I should feel?
Yeah.
They could guess, but they couldn't know how I would feel.
That really got your goat.
It did. It did a lot, very much so, and it also kept me from expressing myself. And to express yourself is a way of finding peace and healing. If you can't express yourself, you're in trouble.
So a good piece of advice or suggestion for caregivers would be to not try to tell their patients how they should feel.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could
you feel better if somebody is acknowledging how you feel, reflecting that they realize that that's how you feel, and affirming that that's how you feel. It's probably one of the most important gifts anybody can give to anyone else, is to acknowledge how they're feeling.
Absolutely. Sometimes staff don't permit you to have your own feelings. They want to stifle you and keep you from thinking and speaking your own will, your own ways. I need to think out some of my responses here, because
Sure.
I don't have a contract or a system that I'm trying to endorse for everyone, and so I need to get in touch with my feelings as I share them with you.
So whatever you happen to be feeling is normal for you in your particular situation. And,
Yep.
even if you're not sick, we tend to have a range of feelings that we have from day to day. And maybe when we get sick, they're amplified. But, there's a normal range of feelings every day, like sadness, fear, anger, love, joy, that you go through sort of like in a normal cycling every day, normal range of feelings. But I suppose when you're sick, a couple of them might fall away. You don't feel much joy, I would imagine. When you were ill, Lee, that joy was not on the plate too often.
Well, you couldn't predict it.
You could or could not?
Could not.
Could not predict
When you have joy.
when you'd have joy. But might you, if you got a good sponge bath or something, or
You might.
there was some momentary relief?
Or you have a child who loves you and
Uh-huh.
and says that in their own words, unexpected. That can give you joy and peace.
Even in the midst of your...
Oh yeah, yeah. They understand. That's the important thing, to have somebody who understands what you're going through.
And are you suggesting that some children were able to do that for you?
Yes, yes, very much so. Yep. The age of the person isn't important. It's their understanding, their caring.
Mm. Children may actually be more directly aware. They don't censor their
Right.
experience like adults.
Absolutely.
So,
I found that you have to work out your own, as the scripture says, your own salvation with fear and trembling. You can't do what somebody else has told you to do. And that's some scripture. And you have to do it with fear and trembling, because you don't know for sure what's the right way to go. And you have to work it out. You have to take effort and courage. And I was just thinking about some of my experiences. And
in fear and trembling,
with fear and trembling,
as you work out your own,
salvation.
in terms of your illness,
Yeah.
how do you relate salvation to your illness?
Well, you're not thinking about it in terms of salvation as though it's your
your immortal soul being
right, saved.
transported to
Right.
the heavenly fields. You're not
Yeah.
thinking of it in those
No,
terms.
not that way. No, not at all.
But there is a parallel, obviously, or you wouldn't have brought it up,
Yeah.
to finding the answer to your struggle and with your illness in that sense.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say, I use the word salvation because it means that you need some kind of way to figure it all out, some way to survive, some way to interpret. And if you don't do that, you're stuck. You're in a difficult situation. That's what the salvation means, and there's no other word.
Is it like giving meaning to your situation? So
Yeah, I think so.
you can somehow hold it, contain it, heft it, make sense of it. And you couldn't do that for the longest time.
No,
I mean, you were out probably 3-4 months.
I think so. Yeah.
Months of uncertainty. And somehow in fear and trembling you got your mind around it? Is that what you're suggesting? If I'm
I would say I got my mind around it, but I learned to cope with it without being smashed or broken. And appreciating what others have done for me.
That's a big one, isn't it?
Yes. You can't you can't require it of someone to do certain things for you.
Yeah.
I remember I was at a center for people who were chronically ill, and I just didn't like it at all because it was all cut and dried, and people were trying to help you with sort of routine ways, but it wasn't my will, it wasn't my way. And I was being programmed to follow certain footsteps that the organizers thought would be helpful. But I appreciate that effort on their part, but it doesn't necessarily help at all.
Yeah. I think sometimes the best help is to really listen to the person and become attuned to them, get to know them, and be in.
You're sounding very knowledgeable about this subject today. Have you been going through some struggles of your own?
I suppose you could say I have been, yeah.
Are you surprised that that's happened?
Oh, no. I think that the whole life journey, in some sense, is a struggle to try to become who you really are, to find out who you really are. And I think illness gives one a chance or psychological challenge. Trying to define your life and live your life in a fashion that you can be respectful of, to not, like you said, be squashed by other people's expectations or procedures that are suggested that you follow but might not suit your particular inclinations. And so I think becoming who I am is really probably the biggest struggle of life, is to be able to fully manifest your heart.
Makes sense.
Not just to be a bleeding heart, but to have a giving heart, but not a bleeding. Not to be overly giving, not to give too much of yourself away. Balancing taking care of others and taking care of yourself, I think, is a big challenge.
Yep, it's both.
Yeah.
And if you only care for others and you don't look out for yourself, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And your spouse and family are in trouble. Because they have their needs too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the biggest challenges I've faced in the last year is having my grandson move to the West Coast.
Oh.
After having been with him almost every day for the first 3 years of his life.
How old is he?
He's 4 now, but he moved when he was 3. So I went from seeing him almost every day and having a great personal relationship, friendship with him from birth, really feeling that connection, and having suddenly reduced the number of visits to 2 or 3 times a year.
They can't do anything different on it?
Well, they have their lives, and their lives are not such as to necessarily be concerned about the elderly, soon to be elderly. But I realized I got pretty dependent on having that little spark plug of energy around. It's almost like putting your hand on a source of strength and energy to have a young child around. Like you were saying, the child that visited you in the hospital gave you joy in the midst of your illness. So lacking that, I got into sort of a disconsolate mode. Still processing it to some degree. So it's good to be around children. I think that's one of the problems of the care centers for older people, is that there's no children in them. You don't see many children. Do you?
Not many.
Yeah.
And they don't see them as, someone to give a value to you, or to take care of these little ones, which is not what they're looking for.
How do you mean?
Well, there are some adults who want to take care of little ones, and they make them feel good to be in charge, to be knowledgeable, be the boss. But that doesn't help the child. We've been there before as adults, but that's not enough.
What's the missing link?
humility.
Uh-huh.
To know that we need these little ones like they need us.
Boy, ain't that the truth. It's a real energy loop. Yes, indeed. So, what else is there to say? Anything?
Let me scratch my head a little bit here.
Scratch my head, yeah. Dealing with the life, the ebbing and flowing, the waxing and waning of energy in life. And keeping your spirit in the midst of challenges to your physical strength and wellness. And facing loss, I think that's a big piece. You know, losing one's sight, one's strength, one's grandchildren, one's limbs. It reminds me of how we have to learn to let go. That's what I'm always trying to do, is to let go of holding on and grasping, while at the same time continuously appreciating. Like you were saying, Reverend Udell, learning to appreciate what people can do for you, do for you, even though it's not always what you'd exactly want and at the time that you want it. How to be appreciative seems to be really essential. And it's probably a way of maintaining a healthy attitude, is to be able to continue to appreciate your life and your friends.
I think so.
Even the weather.
In Vermont recently, even the weather needs to be underlined.
Yeah.
I enjoy hearing a heavy rain in the middle of the night.
It's soothing somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's as long as you're under cover and
You're not on the low level.
Lying out.
The creek level.
Yeah, next to a creek.
That's one thing that you have to always think about when you're building a house or buying a house, to keep in mind
Don't build your house in a creek bed.
right.
And I guess with global warming and the rising of the seas, there's going to be a lot of migration away from the shores. So things are always changing. Relaxing with change. And getting your laundry done. I think not being able to do the things that you've been able to do is a real challenge too. Maintaining your grace and your humility when you can't do a lot of things that you used to be able to do. And not prematurely heading for the elephant graveyard. One of my favorite images is when the elephants know that they're getting close to death, that they leave the herd and head back to the quiet place, which is what I understand is what animals in the wild tend to do, is they look for a place that they can hole up if they're sick or dying. And I think that's one way of approaching your infirmities, is to hole up if it suits your temperament. I think the Native Americans tended to do that, because they related so much more with nature and followed the ways of the wild. I would almost prefer that to being cooped up in a setting of no air and not much contact with the elements. Is that something you missed when you were in hospital, Lee? Contact with the elements,
I would
the
think
sun,
so.
the rain, the wind. I mean, in hospital beds, that seems to be something you don't get much contact with unless they take you to the atrium and let you sun yourself.
I remember when I used to do a lot of hiking and backpacking, I would enjoy putting everything on my back and going off on the mountainside and feeling the sweat of my brow and the strain of my heart and lungs.
Yeah. So you didn't have a backpack in hospital with you?
No. No.
Yeah, it's somewhat of an indignation when you can't manage your life. Especially for someone like who's very active and hiked and so forth. Coping with that is a real challenge.
Yes, it is. That's for sure. There are people who feel they should be exempt from illness. It shouldn't happen to them.
Well, I liked what you said about you have to work out your own salvation in fear and trembling. That if you take counsel with your own intelligence, you probably can figure your situation out, as long as you're willing to tremble, shake, and acknowledge your fear. That's a hard thing for people to do sometimes.
It is, because you don't know what the end result's going to be.
And I think our culture tends to over-medicate people too, in terms of finding a drug to suppress virtually every emotion. You know, I think something like half the population's on antidepressants at this point. Something fundamentally off with that.
That's true.
Did you get offered any antidepressants when you were in hospital?
Some.
Yeah.
They didn't do much for me.
Then we found that little grapefruit effervescence that was helpful. You remember that? That little spritzer?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
A mood improver, aromatherapy.
Yeah, let me tell people about that.
Okay.
Richard came up with a aromatherapy, which is a smell that, for some reason that we don't really understand, heals the soul. And like you had one that was a pineapple smell. I think it was, wasn't it? Pineapple? Grapefruit. And
yeah, it was recommended by a lady who runs an aromatherapy store in town.
you don't.
You can't say. I'm not saying who. I didn't say who or what. Just
Right.
It was available in town.
Yeah.
Can you say that?
So yeah, it's available in town. You can buy it.
You can avail yourself of it in the known universe.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee what it will do. It'll not do.
But apparently it stimulates the brain in a way through the olfactory sense to produce a lift in your spirit.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about a little bit, and not a lot, but a little. That scientists have discovered that you can, to some degree, you can change the way your brain functions. You're not just a piece of machinery that will function the way it's set up, but you can will your brain to function differently. And it sounds kind of absurd, but it's true. And I've been working at that and finding it truthful. That's what the aromatherapy leads to. Have you checked this out yourself?
Yes, I have a variety of different aromas that you can use for different mood shifts. Stuff like peppermint or eucalyptus can affect your mood and your alertness, your breathing. So when prescription medication fails, sometimes you can find other modalities. I think Vermont is a state that's full of alternative approaches to working with situations.
What would it do?
I beg your pardon?
What would it do for you?
What would what do?
Aromatherapy.
Well, you said it changed your brain. It's shifted your spirit. It exhilarated your senses. I think maybe that's the simplest way of putting it. If you're feeling moribund and morose, that if you can bring some exhilaration into your life through any number of different vehicles, laughter you mentioned, humor, aroma, varying the smell in your space, flowers, changes in light, texture. I think kids have contact with their blankies and their stuffed animals for the texture, the sense of contact with something that's soothing to your senses.
Yeah, blankies are not just for little kids. They're for human beings.
Yeah. Multimodality Alchemy Institute. There's all kinds of ways of working with your situation to modify your take on it. Elevating your legs, having a cold cloth. We're always adjusting our environment to try to improve our comfort in our sense of contact. So I think the more you can use your senses, the more you can heighten your sensory awareness. And the more you can reduce your negative attitudes or self-defeating views, and the more you can rest simply with your sensory awareness heightened, brightened, the more one can rest simply with things as they are and appreciate them. Even in the midst of traffic jams and jackhammers. Although that's really a challenge. I think one of the problems of the day is noise pollution. There's so many sounds going off. One of the ones that gets me startled sometimes, Reverend Lee, is when someone locks their car with one of these power lock things,
Yeah.
and it blows the horn on the car.
Yep.
When they sort of like to give them the feedback that their car is actually locked, and this loud horn goes off, and if you're walking past that, you think somebody's blowing the horn at you. It's like, wow, what? That's an absolutely totally annoying automaker device that adds to the the stress levels in life.
And I've recently discovered how some lawn manufacturers have certain
What kind of manufacturers? Lawn?
lawn, I don't know what you'd call them.
Power mowers?
Power mowers.
Yeah, those make a mighty racket.
They're terrible. They're terrible.
Yeah, when you see somebody with a 4-foot by 8-foot lawn using a power mower on it, you kind of scratch your head. Now that is really annoying. I don't think it's good for the harmony of the community to have all those power mowers going with so on and so forth. So you were talking about the cooperation of having a community to care about you when you're ill, Reverend Lee. We could encourage our communities to care about each other by using our power mowers less and getting hand mowers and getting cars that don't make such a loud noise when you lock them. And what about the tinted windows in automobiles that you're driving and somebody has all tinted windows, which is nice for their comfort, but you can't see through them to see the traffic ahead of you. That's another uncooperative community activity that's not good for the health of the larger community. I tend to think of the community as like being a single entity, and the health and sickness of a community really depends on thinking of each other and making decisions that contribute to the well-being of the whole. So the USA is mostly individually oriented. The individual's rights trump those of the larger community at times, which I don't think is exactly totally healthy.
Oh, it's not.
That a community or a town or a city is really like a body that needs to be treated properly. The collective body of a community depends on, the health of it depends on the related parts communicating with each other and being in some kind of harmony.
Yep.
So finding harmony is a key for music, for personal health, for family health, couples health.
Sometimes I've found that if you are too much into meditation, you seem to disappear. You vanish from your environment. That's not good. And I've had to struggle with that, to be alert,
Mm-hmm.
and to be interactive with my friends, to talk about what's important to them, and to really talk about what's important.
Right, not to isolate
Yeah.
and to go into trances so that you're oblivious to your surrounds is not good.
Well, how much time do we have left, do you think?
It looks like about 10 to 12 minutes on the clock. And we can't invite callers because we're not live at this moment.
Yeah.
So how would you like to proceed with the final? You want to?
Well, we've asked people to write us or to phone us if they would like, but that's up to them.
Right. Seeking the harmony, the communication between your show and your audience maybe the audience has ideas about how to improve health and harmony.
I would like to hear their ideas. I would like to
You know,
listen to their thoughts.
say yes, indeed. That would be good to see if there's anybody out there who's also alarmed by the sound of car locks blasting horns. Thousands and thousands of power mowers going on small lawns. And
Using up a lot of natural resources.
people driving to health clubs and trying to get a parking spot close to the door to the health club. There's a lot of irony and in our everyday lives. So I guess the Cash for Clunkers program is being continued.
Cash for what?
Clunkers. That was an interesting
How did that go?
program that the government came up with to encourage people to trade in their old low mileage vehicles
Mm-hmm.
and were given cash compensation for trading them in for a more efficient automobile, newer, better gas mileage, on the proviso that the cars are scrapped, that the junkers are scrapped, the clunkers are scrapped, in an effort to both increase the auto dealers' business and also get less pollution and less efficient automobiles off the road. Seems like the country is in a time of really moving into another level of efficiency and effectiveness. It's almost like the health, the planet is sick from bad food and too much fossil fuels and
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth, and that we're trying to deal with the sickness of the planet by treating it better.
I think it's very noteworthy.
Even though I suppose the planet will eventually die
It will.
when the sun goes out.
Yeah, that's a fact. It's hard to believe that.
It's about 6 billion years down the trail, give or take a billion or 3. But stars do only have a certain amount of time before they.
5 minutes.
There's our signal, 5 minutes. Everything eventually disappears. Things are constantly going in and out of being. That's the beauty of it, I guess. How to relax with that. That's what we're all doing, I would say, Reverend Lee.
I would say that.
So this is your debut after a period of
Maybe 3 or 4 months out.
3 or 4 months of being in absentia.
You think I should go back to join? I mean, continue to be active?
That's. I think you invited at the top of the hour your audience to let you know whether they wanted you to keep going. Is this a benefit?
I think it is, but of course that's my opinion. I don't know what their opinion is.
I think it's great to see a soldier minister continue his ministry to the last breath. whether, I think probably there is an audience that appreciates. I know every time I see one of your programs, it's interesting and varied. You have such a wide variety of people that you have on. Fascinating information.
We do have a lot of feedback to the program, and I have discovered that there are some people who like to already follow the program, very much so. And they will arrange their schedule so they can do that.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the value of having a program that you follow.
Right.
If it's always just, by gosh or by golly,
Right.
then you can't really keep in track with that.
Yeah.
My own weakness is that I sometimes am too relaxed, and I don't get people riled up and speaking their minds and coming out with new ideas.
Yeah.
And then they get sleepy and fall asleep, or almost fall asleep.
Well, you can't change your nature completely, though. You're not going to suddenly become a sword-wielding,
No.
taser-shooting,
Samurai.
yeah, water pistol squirting, hand buzzer shaking kind of guy. You gotta work with who you are and how you are.
But have you heard people say that? Where is that Lee Udell?
I have heard a couple of people say that. Yeah. When now the answer is out. Here he is. He's back.
So we're going to try to be interactive and profound and assertive.
Keep the show on the road. Welcome back, Lee.
Thank you. I hear the music, meaning that our program is over for today. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Glad
it.
to be with you.
And thank you for your support. It means a lot to me to have your support.
You're very welcome.
This was a trial run for me to see whether I could do it. And I think I can.
It would appear thus.